Welcome back to the channel, where the hidden corners of history are brought vividly to life, not through dusty records, but through the eyes and senses of those who lived it. Tonight, we step into the ranks of the most elite soldiers Europe had ever known, the men who marched in lockstep behind Napoleon Bonaparte, bound not only by discipline, but by devotion to their emperor. The world you enter is not one of easy comfort. You feel the weight of your musket across your shoulder as dawn's chill bites at your skin. The smell of damp canvas and leather boots fills the air inside the sprawling camp. Outside, a low mist clings to the fields of Europe, and above it rises the faint hum of thousands of men preparing for another day. You are one of them, a chosen guardian of Napoleon himself. The sound of drums echoes in the distance, calling you to form ranks, and with every beat, you feel not just the rhythm of war, but the heartbeat of empire. To serve in Napoleon's Imperial Guard was to live in a world of contradictions, luxury and hardship, glory and terror, privilege and peril. These men, often called the immortals of the French army, were handpicked from the bravest and strongest. They were taller than average soldiers, often seasoned veterans who had already survived years of bloody campaigns. Their uniforms gleamed with gold braids and tall bearskin hats, marking them instantly apart from ordinary regiments. Yet beneath the grandeur lay constant exhaustion, endless marches, and the knowledge that death lingered only a musket ball away. Your day begins before the sun has fully risen. You wake on a bedroll, wool blanket wrapped tight against the cold. Around you, the murmurs of fellow guardsmen stir the silence, boots scraping on earth, flint striking sparks for a morning fire. Coffee is rare, but when it appears, its bitter aroma is cherished more than gold. Bread, hard and dry, must be softened in water or wine before you can chew it. Sometimes salted meat is issued, and on good days, you receive cheese or a handful of beans. Food is not abundant, but as one of Napoleon's chosen few, your rations are better than those of the ordinary infantry. When inspection comes, you stand straighter than ever, the weight of the bearskin hat heavy upon your head. Its black fur seems to carry centuries of tradition, its height intended to make you appear more imposing, taller, nearly inhuman. The blue coat you wear is polished and spotless, buttons gleaming, white breeches clean despite the mud clinging to your boots. In Napoleon's army, appearance is as much a weapon as the bayonet. The guard must embody perfection. If the common soldier falters, it is the guard who restores order, not only in battle, but in spirit. Service to Napoleon himself brings both pride and burden. You are often stationed near his person, sometimes guarding the tent where he drafts plans deep into the night. You hear the scratching of his pen, the occasional thud of his fist upon the table, the sharpness in his voice as he dictates orders. His energy is relentless, and though you rarely meet his eye, the sense of his presence presses upon you like gravity itself. For many guardsmen, loyalty to Napoleon is less about France and more about the man. He is not just a commander. He is an emperor who inspires men to march across continents, to bleed for him in frozen fields and scorched deserts. And yet, even in this exalted service, you cannot escape the fragility of life at war. Disease stalks the camp as fiercely as enemy sabers. You have seen comrades struck down not by musket fire, but by fever. Wounds fester when bandages run short. The stench of latrines hangs over the camp, reminding every soldier that even the strongest are vulnerable. When you lie awake at night, the distant moan of the wounded drifts across the darkness, a chorus of suffering that no glory can silence. Still, there are moments of splendor, moments that remind you why men speak of the Guard with reverence. When Napoleon reviews his troops, you stand at attention as thousands cheer, their voices thundering across the field. His figure, small in stature, yet towering in spirit, rides along the line, and as his gaze sweeps past you, a surge of pride burns in your chest. To be seen by him, even for an instant, is to feel immortal. But you know the truth. Immortality is a dream. Every campaign cuts deeper. Every battle leaves scars. When you march into the roar of cannon fire, you know that being chosen does not mean being spared. In fact, it often means you will be the last to retreat, the first to stand, the unbreakable shield that holds the empire together. That knowledge weighs heavier than your musket, heavier than the bearskin upon your brow. Serving as Napoleon's Imperial Guard is to live each day on the knife's edge between honor and annihilation. And as night falls once more, you return to your place by the Emperor's side, muskets stacked neatly, cloaks wrapped tightly, listening for the sound of the drum that might call you into eternity before dawn. The morning comes with a trumpet's call, sharp and metallic in the frosty air. You wake not to comfort, but to duty. The camp stirs like a giant body, fires rekindled, kettles boiling, horses stamping their hooves in the mud. Around you, the men of the guard prepare themselves with a precision born of endless repetition. Boots are laced tight, muskets inspected, powder horns checked and rechecked. To be careless is to court death, and in Napoleon's Guard, carelessness is unforgivable. Breakfast is little more than a crust of bread dipped in wine, but it is enough to warm your belly for the march ahead. You sling your pack across your shoulder. Inside, a spare shirt, cartridges, and whatever small comforts you can carry. Some men tuck away letters from home, their edges worn from repeated folding, the ink smudged by damp hands. Others carry small charms, a crucifix, a lock of hair, a scrap of ribbon. They are reminders of lives far away, of families who may never see their sons again. The Guard is divided into old, middle, and young regiments, each with its own character. The Old Guard, veterans of a dozen campaigns, wear their scars like medals. They speak little, their silence commanding respect. Their faces are weathered, their eyes steady. Men who have marched from Italy to Egypt to Prussia without faltering. The Middle Guard are in their prime, hardened but not yet ancient, their pride fiery, their loyalty absolute. The Young Guard, fresh and eager, carry themselves with the reckless energy of youth, desperate to prove they are worthy of the bearskin and braid. Together, they form a living wall, a brotherhood forged in fire. As you march, the rhythm of drums steadies your stride. The world blurs into a pattern, mud sucking at your boots, the hiss of breath, the endless horizon. Villages pass by, their windows shuttered, peasants staring in fearful silence as thousands of bayonets glint like a forest of steel under the pale sun. Children cling to mothers, watching the tide of war roll past their homes. You wonder what they see when they look at you. A protector, a monster, a stranger carrying the fate of Europe upon his shoulders. Life on the march is grueling. Your pack feels heavier with each step, straps digging into your flesh until your shoulders burn. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, leather, and smoke. Sometimes there is music, fifes and drums that lift weary spirits. Sometimes there is only silence, broken by the cough of a sick comrade or the squeak of a wheel from a gun carriage. Each mile is a reminder that glory is purchased with exhaustion. Yet the Guard's life is not all hardship. There are moments when privilege becomes clear. Unlike the common infantry, you are better fed, better clothed, better armed. When the army makes camp, your tents are pitched first, your fires lit quickly. Ordinary soldiers glance at you with envy, sometimes with awe, for you are seen as the Emperor's chosen, the shield of France. And yet, this privilege is heavy. With it comes expectation. When others break, you must stand. When others flee, you must fight. At night, the camp becomes a strange blend of silence and sound. Fires flicker, throwing orange light upon weary faces. Men gather around to share stories of past battles, of narrow escapes, of comrades lost. One man recalls Egypt, the blinding sun and endless sand, the pyramids looming like gods upon the horizon. Another speaks of Austerlitz, the morning mist, the sun rising as the enemy fell into chaos. Their words carry both pride and sorrow, for every victory is shadowed by the memory of those who never returned. And then there is Napoleon himself. Sometimes he appears among the guard, riding a small horse, his hands clasped behind his back. He inspects with an eye that misses nothing: the shine of a bayonet, the tilt of a shako, the straightness of a line. His presence electrifies the air. Men straighten unconsciously, chests swelling, spines stiffening. When he speaks, his words are clipped but magnetic, his voice carrying the weight of destiny. "Soldiers," he says, "you are the heart of France. With you, I am invincible." And for a moment, you believe it. For a moment, you feel that immortality is within reach. But when the night deepens and the fires burn low, doubts creep into your mind. You lie awake listening to the breathing of the men around you, the occasional cough, the restless turning on bedrolls. You wonder what tomorrow will bring: a march through rain, a sudden order to prepare for battle, a volley of musket fire that might end your life in an instant. You think of home, of vineyards in Burgundy, of quiet streets in Paris, of the church bells that once rang above your childhood. The world you left feels impossibly far away, and you wonder if you will ever see it again. Serving in the Imperial Guard is not only about glory. It is about endurance, of body, of spirit, of loyalty tested again and again. You carry the weight of the empire on your shoulders, not because you must, but because you have chosen to. And in that choice, even amid hunger, fear, and exhaustion, there lies a strange kind of freedom. The march ends not with rest, but with the grinding labor of camp life. You sink into the earth with every step as the order comes to halt. Around you, thousands of men break into practiced motion. Tents rise, fires are struck, wagons are unloaded. The guard moves with precision, every man knowing his place. Even in the mud and cold, there is order, as if the camp itself were an extension of Napoleon's will. You strip off your heavy bearskin hat and wipe the sweat from your brow. Beneath its fur, your head feels light, almost naked. The scent of horse dung and wood smoke fills your nostrils. From the kitchens, the smell of boiling stew drifts across the rows of tents. You find your portion of bread, meat, and wine. A meal fit for kings compared to what ordinary soldiers receive. They watch from a distance, eyes hollow, envy flickering across faces hardened by hunger. You feel both pride and guilt. Privilege makes you stronger, but it also isolates you. Night descends quickly, and with it comes the flicker of countless fires across the darkened field. You sit shoulder to shoulder with comrades, steam rising from the tin bowl in your hands. Laughter ripples through the group as stories are traded, some boastful, some bitter. A man with scars across his face recalls Marengo, where cannon fire tore the earth apart, and yet the guard held firm. Another speaks of Egypt, the searing sun, the desert wind carrying whispers of ancient gods. Each tale is half warning, half legend, stitched into the fabric of who you are. The guard is more than soldiers. It is a brotherhood. Bonds forged in blood and fire are stronger than any oath. You share everything: the last mouthful of wine, the comfort of a blanket, the burden of loss. When a man falls, you remember him not in silence, but in stories told around the fire. His courage, his laughter, his final words. These live on long after his body is laid beneath foreign soil. In this way, the guard defies death, even if only for a night. But not all is laughter. Tension lurks beneath the surface. sharpened by exhaustion and fear. A wrong word, a careless glance, can spark tempers. Once, two men clashed over a stolen crust of bread, fists flying until the sergeant's bark silenced them. Discipline is iron, and punishment swift. A soldier who disobeys risks not only his own life, but the honor of the guard. You know this well, and so you measure your words, keeping pride in check, loyalty always at the forefront. When sleep finally comes, it is restless. You lie on rough ground wrapped in your cloak, musket within reach. The night is alive with sound. Horses stamping, the low murmur of sentries, the distant boom of thunder. Sometimes you dream of home. Sometimes you dream of battle. The flash of steel, the scream of cannonballs, the faces of enemies falling before you. You wake with your heart racing, hand clutching your musket as if to reassure yourself that you are still alive. Then comes the moment every guardsman dreads, the sudden call to arms. A cry pierces the night, followed by the urgent beat of drums. You scramble to your feet, pulling on your boots, grabbing your weapon. The camp erupts into chaos, men rushing to their posts, fires flaring as officers bark orders. Your heart pounds as you form ranks, the cold air biting at your face. Somewhere beyond the darkness, the enemy stirs. Whether it is a false alarm or the beginning of battle, you do not know. But as the guard assembles, shoulder to shoulder, you feel the weight of centuries pressing down on you. In moments like this, time bends. Every sense sharpens. The smell of gunpowder, the gleam of bayonets in firelight, the silence before the storm. You glance down the line at the faces of your comrades. Some are grim, others eager, their eyes burning with anticipation. You wonder how many will still be standing when the sun rises. And then, as suddenly as it began, the alarm fades. Orders are given to stand down, and the guard disperses back to camp. Relief washes over you, though it is tinged with unease. Each false alarm is a reminder that war is never far away, that at any moment the drums could beat again, not as warning, but as the herald of battle. Lying back on the cold ground, cloak pulled tight, you cannot help but think of tomorrow. Perhaps it will bring another march. Perhaps it will bring battle. Whatever it brings, you know this. You are bound to Napoleon, to his vision, to his empire. To serve as his guard is to surrender certainty, to live only for the next drumbeat, the next command, the next step into the unknown. The dawn that follows a restless night feels colder than the last. The fog clings to the earth, curling between the tents like a ghost. Your body aches from the march, your feet blistered, your shoulders sore. Yet, as the drumbeat rolls across camp, you rise with the same practiced motion as every man around you. Fatigue is never an excuse in the guard. Pain is expected, silence is demanded, and endurance is the only path to honor. This morning is different. Rumors whisper through the ranks. Enemy forces are near. Officers stride quickly between columns, their words clipped and urgent. The scent of powder already lingers faintly in the air, carried on the wind from some unseen skirmish. You eat in haste. A mouthful of bread, a swallow of wine, the taste of iron in your mouth betraying your nerves. Around you, comrades speak little. Their silence is heavier than words. When the order comes to march, the guard moves as one. Muskets gleam beneath the pale sun, bayonets fixed, packs swaying with each step. You feel the ground tremble beneath the synchronized rhythm of boots. Villagers emerge from their cottages to watch in hushed awe. To them, you are not men, but a living wall, a tide of discipline and steel. Children clutch their mothers' skirts, eyes wide, as if they sense the violence looming just beyond the horizon. Hours stretch into eternity. The road winds through fields and forests, the air filled with the sound of horses snorting, wagons creaking, drums thundering. You hear birds scatter from the trees as the vast column advances. The smell of churned mud, sweat, and leather envelops you, mingling with the sharp tang of anxiety that grips your stomach. Every step brings you closer to the battlefield, though none dare say it aloud. By midday, the camp halts near a ridge. Orders ring out. The guard is to hold position. Cannons are unlimbered, their wheels groaning as they are dragged into place. You stack your musket with the others, the barrels clinking in unison, then drop to the ground to rest. But rest is impossible. From beyond the ridge, faint booms echo, the growl of artillery in the distance. The earth seems to quiver with each report, and the air tastes faintly of smoke. War is near. The guard waits. Hours pass in tense silence. Some men doze with their hats pulled low, others carve shapes into wood with their knives. Still others mutter prayers under their breath. The veterans of the old guard are unshaken, their faces stone, their posture unyielding. They have seen this all before. The younger soldiers glance at them, searching for reassurance, and find it in their silence. If the old guard does not tremble, neither will they. Finally, word spreads. Napoleon himself approaches. The camp stirs to life at once. You scramble to your feet, straightening your coat, brushing mud from your breeches. And then, there he is. Mounted on a small white horse, cloak draped across his shoulders, hat tilted forward over his piercing eyes. The air shifts with his presence. Thousands of men straighten at once, as if pulled upright by invisible strings. The emperor passes by, his gaze sharp, his voice calm yet commanding. "Soldiers," he calls, "France looks to you. Stand firm, and victory is ours." His words are simple, yet they cut deep. You feel them in your chest like a blade. Around you, men erupt in cheers, their voices crashing together in a wave that sweeps across the camp. For that moment, fatigue vanishes, fear evaporates. You are no longer a man, but a fragment of something larger, the living embodiment of France's will. But when night falls again, and Napoleon has withdrawn to his tent, reality settles once more. Fires burn low, and you sit with your comrades, polishing your musket, adjusting your cartridge box, rehearsing movements drilled into your bones. You know what tomorrow may bring. You may stand in reserve, watching as ordinary regiments clash in bloody chaos. Or you may be called forward, unleashed like a hammer to smash through the enemy line when the battle hangs in the balance. The uncertainty gnaws at you. You lie awake, staring at the black canvas above, listening to the night wind tug at the tents. You know that if dawn brings the order, you must march forward without hesitation. You must be unbreakable, immovable, the last line of defense and the first to strike. And though your heart pounds with fear, you also feel a strange pride, for to serve in the Guard is to stand closer to history's fire than any other man alive. The morning arrives with no gentle light. Instead, the sky is heavy, gray, and restless. Clouds hang low, as if they too sense what is coming. The Guard is assembled before the sun fully breaks through, muskets stacked, cartridge boxes full, bayonets fixed. Officers move quickly along the lines, their voices curt, their expressions carved from stone. The smell of powder already drifts on the wind. The enemy is near. You stand shoulder to shoulder with men who have marched across half the world with you. Their faces are pale, their jaws tight, but their eyes are steady. Each man knows what today may demand. To be in the Guard is to be the steel at the Emperor's heart, the weapon he keeps in reserve, the force he unleashes when fate itself teeters on the edge. You know this, and you know what it means. When the Guard moves, it is not to skirmish. It is to decide the battle. The hours crawl. You wait in disciplined silence, positioned behind the lines of ordinary infantry. From where you stand, you can see smoke rising in the distance, hear the dull thunder of artillery, the sharp crack of muskets, the shouted commands drowned beneath the chaos of war. The ground vibrates with the rumble of cannons, the clash of steel, the screams of the wounded carried on the wind. Though you are not yet called forward, every sound coils in your chest, tightening like a spring. The smell of blood and smoke grows thicker as wounded men stumble back through your ranks. Their faces are pale, their uniforms torn, crimson soaking through linen. Some are carried on stretchers, others limp alone, eyes glazed with shock. One soldier, barely more than a boy, collapses at your feet, whispering a prayer before he is lifted away. You do not speak. You do not move. You stand at attention, your musket heavy in your hands, waiting. And then it happens. A rider bursts through the haze, galloping hard, mud flying from hooves. His voice rings out, "The guard forward!" In an instant, the stillness shatters. Drums beat with a furious rhythm, flags are raised, and the command rolls through the ranks like fire through dry grass. Your heart slams in your chest as you shoulder your musket and step into line. This is the moment you have lived for, and the moment you may die in. The march forward is like a thunderclap. The guard advances with unbroken precision, bayonets gleaming like a wall of steel beneath the gray sky. Smoke thickens around you, stinging your eyes, burning your throat. Cannon fire erupts ahead, the ground exploding in fountains of mud and blood. Men fall, yet the line does not break. You step over bodies, your boots slipping on the churned earth, your hands gripping the musket as if it were part of your body. And then the musket fire begins. The first volley crashes through the air, a deafening roar that rattles your bones. You raise your weapon, aim through the haze, and fire. The recoil slams into your shoulder, the acrid smell of gunpowder filling your nostrils. Around you, thousands fire in unison, the blasts merging into a single, unrelenting thunder. Smoke swirls, choking, blinding, until the world is nothing but sound and fire. The enemy surges forward, bayonets flashing, faces twisted with fear and fury. You meet them head-on. Steel clashes with steel, muskets swing like clubs, bayonets thrust into flesh. The screams are unbearable. Men crying out in rage, in agony, in final silence as they fall. You fight not as an individual, but as part of the guard, moving as one, striking as one, holding the line with unbreakable force. Time loses meaning in the frenzy. Minutes stretch into hours, or perhaps only seconds. Your arms ache, your throat burns, your ears ring from the endless roar of cannon and musket. And yet, you do not falter. You cannot. Behind you lies Napoleon, the Empire, the very heart of France. To break would be to fail not only him, but the generations yet to come. When at last the enemy falters, the guard presses forward. Step by step, bayonet by bayonet, you drive them back. The ground is slick with mud and blood, littered with bodies, but still you advance. Victory is not yet certain, but the tide has turned. The guard has spoken, and the battlefield bends to its will. As the fighting subsides, the field falls into a dreadful silence. Smoke drifts across the ruined earth, broken only by the groans of the wounded. You stand, chest heaving, musket heavy in your hand. Around you, comrades lean on one another, faces blackened with soot, uniforms torn, eyes hollow with exhaustion. Many are gone. Their places in the line are empty, their stories ended in the mud. And yet the guard still stands. In that silence, you understand what it means to serve. To be in the guard is to give everything, strength, loyalty, life itself, not for glory, but for duty. And though fear gnaws at you, pride burns brighter. You have faced the storm and endured. you have been the wall that would not break. The battlefield after combat is a place that no words can truly capture. When the thunder of muskets and cannons fades, what remains is silence broken only by suffering. You stand among the wreckage of men and earth, the acrid smoke still clinging to your clothes, your ears ringing with the echo of endless fire. Around you, the ground is churned into mud streaked with red. Muskets lie abandoned beside bodies, flags trampled into the soil, boots half buried in the muck where their owners fell. The guard, battered but unbroken, begins to regroup. Sergeants bark hoarse orders, gathering men into lines, counting, checking, marking who still breathes. The faces you see are pale and hollow, eyes unfocused, lips cracked with exhaustion. Some men lean heavily on their muskets, trembling with fatigue. Others slump to the ground, heads bowed, their hands shaking too violently to reload. You look down the ranks and see spaces where friends once stood. They are gone, swallowed by the battle, their names soon to be etched only into memory. Wounded men litter the ground. Some groan softly, clutching at torn uniforms where crimson seeps through linen. Others cry out for mothers, for God, for mercy. Surgeons move quickly, their aprons already soaked in blood, knives flashing as they work in the open. Amputations are done without hesitation, the screams tearing across the field like another volley of fire. You watch as comrades hold men down, their faces grim as bone saws rasp through flesh and bone. There is no time for gentleness. Survival demands speed, and the wounded know it. Yet amid this horror, life clings stubbornly. A man with a shattered arm insists on rejoining the line, his face pale but defiant. Another, his leg gone, grasps your hand and smiles weakly, whispering that the guard still stands, and therefore France still stands. You feel a lump rise in your throat, but you do not cry. Tears have no place here. Instead, you squeeze his hand and promise silently to remember him. As night falls, camp is set upon the very ground where men bled and died only hours before. Fires crackle, their light dancing across exhausted faces. The smell of cooking meat mingles with the sickly sweetness of blood and the sourness of sweat. You eat in silence, chewing slowly, your stomach turning as the day's images replay in your mind. Each mouthful feels like betrayal when you think of those who will never eat again. Yet you force it down. Strength is survival, and tomorrow may demand it anew. Napoleon rides through the camp, his face unreadable, his small frame casting a long shadow in the firelight. Men straighten when he passes, though their bodies ache and their spirits are heavy. He says little, but his presence alone stirs something deep inside. When he nods, when his gaze lingers, you feel a spark of pride flicker through the exhaustion. It is enough to carry you through the night. Sleep, when it comes, is restless. You lie on the cold ground, cloak wrapped tight, musket at your side. The earth beneath you is uneven, disturbed by cannon fire and the weight of fallen men. The wind howls across the empty fields, carrying with it the faint cries of the dying left beyond reach. You close your eyes, but instead of darkness, you see faces. Comrades laughing around a fire, now silent forever. Enemies whose eyes widened in terror as steel met flesh. And Napoleon himself, standing at the heart of it all, tireless, immovable, inexorable. Morning breaks with a pale light that reveals the true cost of victory. The field stretches before you, a graveyard of bodies. Horses lie twisted in grotesque shapes, their eyes frozen in panic. Men, both French and enemy, are strewn across the ground, their limbs tangled, muskets fallen from lifeless hands. The stench is unbearable. Blood, powder, smoke, and decay mingling into a single, suffocating odor. Burial details move among them, digging shallow graves, stacking corpses, trying to impose order upon chaos. You are not sent to fight this day. Instead, you are ordered to stand guard while the work continues. You lean upon your musket, watching as comrades are lowered into the earth, their names spoken softly by surviving friends. A sergeant mutters a prayer over each grave, though the words blur together in repetition. It is a ritual of necessity more than comfort. For every name spoken, another slips away into silence, forgotten beneath the weight of numbers. And yet, even in this place of death, life continues. Fires are lit, bread is broken, water fetched from nearby streams. Soldiers wash the blood from their hands, polish muskets, adjust straps, repair torn uniforms. Discipline demands it. To falter, even now, is to dishonor the guard. And so you move with the same precision as ever, binding wounds, checking ammunition, preparing for the next command. To serve in Napoleon's guard is to live with death as a constant companion, at the table, in the march, on the battlefield. Yet within that shadow lies a fierce pride. You are the Emperor's chosen. You stand when others fall, you endure when others break. And though you know tomorrow may demand your life, you do not waver. For as long as the guard stands, France stands. The weeks after battle blur together, each day marked by the same rhythm of march, rest, and readiness. Your body grows accustomed to exhaustion, your muscles hardened by endless strain, your mind sharpened by constant discipline. To serve in the guard is not to live as a man, but as a weapon, polished, sharpened, and carried always at the Emperor's side. Marching becomes the heartbeat of your existence. The drums set the pace, steady and relentless, each beat pulling you farther from the memory of home. The road stretches endlessly, dust rising in summer, mud clinging in autumn, frost biting in winter. Boots wear thin, shoulders ache beneath packs heavy with cartridges and bread, but still the guard presses forward. Ordinary infantry may straggle, but you are not permitted the luxury of weakness. A man who falters risks disgrace. The guard must always move as one. As the march continues, the landscape itself seems to blur. Fields of wheat trampled beneath thousands of feet, forests echoing with the creak of wagons, rivers crossed by makeshift bridges of rope and timber. Villagers watch in silence as the columns pass, their faces unreadable. Some gaze with awe, others with hatred, but all understand what your presence means. Napoleon is near, and with him, the fate of nations. At night, the camp becomes your world. Fires are lit, and the smell of wood smoke drifts across the dark. Around the flames, comrades share what little comfort they can. Laughter rises in bursts, often covering the weight of fatigue. Jokes are crude, songs louder still, but beneath them lies the unspoken truth. Each man knows he may not see another night. That truth binds you more tightly than any oath. Food is a constant reminder of both privilege and hardship. Your rations as a guardsman are better than those of the common soldier. Bread less stale, meat less spoiled, wine more frequent. And yet hunger never truly leaves you. Meals are small, often eaten hastily, always leaving you wanting more. Still, when you sit with comrades around a pot of stew, steam curling upward into the night, the taste feels like luxury. Hunger shared is a bond stronger than gold. You begin to notice the small details that shape daily life. The scrape of a whetstone on a bayonet, the rhythmic tap of a comrade polishing boots, the soft murmur of prayers whispered before sleep. Some men cling to tokens from home, a charm, a ribbon, a folded letter worn thin at the edges. You too carry something small, hidden at the bottom of your pack, a reminder that beyond the endless march and battlefield lies a world of peace you may never see again. Then there are the inspections. Napoleon demands perfection from his guard, and perfection is what you must present. Every button polished, every strap straight, every musket gleaming. Even in mud, even in rain, the guard must look unbreakable. When the emperor himself rides past, you feel his gaze sweep over you like fire. To falter beneath it is unthinkable. To stand tall, even with blisters burning your feet, is to feel the pride of being seen as part of his immortal wall. Occasionally, the march halts near towns large enough to remind you of the world beyond war. Civilians line the streets as you pass through, their stares heavy with curiosity or fear. Children point at the towering bearskins, their eyes wide with awe. Women lean from windows, some tossing flowers, others spitting curses. Merchants open stalls, eager to sell bread or wine for inflated prices. The air hums with life, yet you move through it untouched, a world apart. You are not seen as men, but as symbols, the emperor's shadow cast in human form. When the guard rests in such towns, billets are assigned. You find yourself sleeping in barns, on straw scattered across wooden floors, sometimes in cramped rooms with comrades packed shoulder to shoulder. The warmth is welcome, the roof above a rare comfort. Yet even here, the musket never leaves your side, and your ears remain tuned to the faintest drumbeat. Peace is never more than an illusion, and through it all, discipline remains absolute. Drills are relentless, weapons practice unending. Bayonet charges repeated until your arms ache, musket volleys rehearsed until smoke burns your throat. You march, you fire, you reload, you fix bayonet, again and again, until the motions become instinct. When battle comes, there can be no hesitation. The guard does not stumble. The guard does not break. In quiet moments, you sometimes wonder what drives you: fear, loyalty, pride, or something deeper. Perhaps it is the bond with your comrades, men who would bleed beside you without question. Perhaps it is the magnetic force of Napoleon himself, the sense that to stand near him is to stand near destiny. Or perhaps it is simply that once chosen, there is no turning back. To be in the guard is to walk a path that ends only in victory or in death. And so, each day passes as the last. March, fight, endure. The horizon always beckons, and the guard always follows. Winter campaigns bring their own kind of torment. The cold is a constant enemy, as unrelenting as any Austrian or Russian army. Frost creeps into your bones, numbing your fingers until they barely grip the musket, stiffening your toes until each step feels like walking on knives. Snow muffles the world, but it cannot muffle hunger. Bread hardens into stone, meat freezes into blocks that must be hacked with bayonets before you can chew. Wine, if it comes, burns twice as fiercely in the cold, but it never lasts long. At night, you huddle with comrades close to the fire, cloaks pulled tightly, bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder for warmth. The flames dance, but the cold still seeps in. Smoke stings your eyes, the smell of charred wood and damp wool filling your nose. You wake often, shivering, listening to the endless wind sweeping across barren fields. Sleep is shallow, broken by coughs, by the groan of men trying to shift on frozen ground, by the haunting silence of those who no longer stir. The march through snow is slow, brutal, and punishing. Each step sinks into drifts, each boot pulled free with effort. Frost gathers in your beard, clings to your eyelashes, stiffens your breath into white clouds that vanish quickly in the wind. Horses collapse, their bodies frozen where they fall. Wagons creak, their wheels catching on icy ruts, until men must strain their shoulders against them, heaving forward with grunts of desperation. The sound of cracking whips mixes with the groan of wood and the muffled curse of drivers. And yet, in the guard, you march on. Pride keeps you upright when your body wishes to fall. The veterans of the old guard set the pace. their faces unreadable, their bodies bent but unbroken. You watch them closely, taking strength from their silence. If they endure, then so will you. On rare days, warmth comes in unexpected ways. A village offers shelter, barns crowded with men, grateful for straw beds and walls against the wind. Women bring bowls of soup, their steam rising like a blessing. Children gape at the towering bearskins, whispering as if you are giants stepped from legend. For a few hours, you remember what it means to be human, not just a soldier. But dawn always comes, and with it, the march resumes, snow crunching beneath thousands of boots, the empire pushing ever onward. Disease becomes as deadly as enemy fire. Frostbite blackens fingers and toes until they must be cut away. Fevers sweep through the camp, leaving men shivering in their blankets, eyes glassy, breath shallow. The surgeons do what they can, but their tools are crude, their supplies limited. You have seen comrades carried out into the snow, wrapped in cloaks, their graves dug shallow in frozen earth. Each loss reminds you of your own fragility, but each day you rise again, for to falter is to dishonor the guard. Even in this frozen world, Napoleon's presence burns like a fire. He rides among you, cloak wrapped tight, his small horse crunching through snowdrifts. His gaze is sharp, his voice steady, as if the cold has no hold on him. "Courage, soldiers," he says. "France depends on you." And though your body trembles with frost, you feel a heat in your chest, a surge of pride that pushes you forward. For if he endures, so must you. Battle in winter is a nightmare all its own. Smoke rises into the pale sky, mingling with falling snow, until the world becomes a blur of gray and white. Muskets misfire, their powder dampened by sleet. Bayonets flash through fog, glinting briefly before plunging into chaos. Cannon fire shakes the frozen ground, throwing snow and soil into the air. The sound is muffled, yet more terrible, as if the earth itself groans beneath the weight of war. You fight with frozen hands, your breath burning in your throat, your vision clouded by ice and smoke. When the day ends, you stagger back to camp, boots stiff with frost, cloak stiff with frozen blood. You collapse beside the fire, hands shaking too violently to hold the tin cup of wine passed to you. A comrade steadies it, his face pale, his own lips blue with cold. You share a weak smile, for in that moment, survival is victory enough. Serving in the Imperial Guard through winter teaches you a lesson no book or sermon could. Glory is never easy. It is carved from endurance, paid for with suffering, and kept alive only by the stubborn will to march another step, to fight another battle, to live another day. And though you wonder how much longer you can endure, you know that as long as Napoleon calls, the Guard will rise again, frostbitten, starving, but unbroken. Spring arrives, and with it a new kind of hardship. The snow melts into mud, and the roads become rivers of filth. Each step sinks, boots sucking into the mire, pulled free with a squelch that feels as exhausting as battle. Horses flounder, wagons bog down, and soldiers strain their shoulders against the wheels, curses mixing with the groan of wood. The smell of wet earth mingles with sweat and manure, clinging to your clothes, seeping into your very skin. Yet compared to the freezing nights of winter, there is a strange relief. The sun grows warmer each day, its light lingering longer in the sky. Grass sprouts across the fields, trees bloom, and for a moment the world looks alive again. You notice birds singing above the columns, children running barefoot beside the roads, villagers planting in the fields as if war were only a shadow passing over them. These sights remind you of home, of a France far behind you, and of a peace that feels impossibly distant. The Guard moves through this landscape with the same unyielding rhythm. Drills resume in earnest. Muskets are fired in volleys. bayonets polished until they gleam in the sun. Officers bark orders, their voices sharp, their eyes watchful. Discipline must never falter. A single careless mistake in formation could mean ruin in battle, and so you repeat the same motions again and again until they become part of your body, until your arms lift and fire without thought, until your legs march without question. In the evenings, camp life carries its familiar pattern. Fires glow across the fields, laughter rising from groups of soldiers sharing bread and wine. Songs echo under the stars, some bawdy, some sorrowful, all carrying the weight of memory. You hear stories of past campaigns. Egypt, where the sun baked the desert and pyramids loomed like ancient gods. Austerlitz, where the rising sun crowned victory. Wagram, where cannon smoke turned the world black. Each tale weaves the Guard's legacy deeper, binding you tighter into its legend. But spring also brings fresh campaigns. Whispers drift through the camp. The Emperor has plans, new battles, new enemies. Maps spread across tables in command tents, candles dripping wax onto the parchment as officers bend over them late into the night. Riders come and go, their hooves thundering through the mud, their cloaks flapping in the wind. You see Napoleon himself pacing before his maps, his expression sharp, his movements restless. His energy seems endless, as if he draws strength from the very air. To see him like this is to understand why men follow him across continents. His will is unbreakable, his vision clear, his presence magnetic. The Guard knows what this means. Another march, another battle, another chance to be hurled into the storm when the Empire's fate trembles. Some men welcome it, eager for glory, their eyes burning with ambition. Others grow silent, their faces drawn, their thoughts wandering to wives, children, and parents they may never see again. You feel both, the fire of pride and the ache of fear, battling within your chest. One evening, as you sit polishing your musket by firelight, an older veteran speaks quietly. His face is carved with lines, his eyes shadowed by years of war. "The Guard does not fear death," he says, "but do not mistake that for immortality. Our duty is not to live forever. Our duty is to stand when others break." His words linger in your mind long after the fire burns low. Soon, the march begins again. The columns wind through villages and fields, drums setting the pace, banners snapping in the wind. The people watch as you pass, their faces a mixture of awe and dread. Some bow, some scowl, some whisper prayers. Children run alongside, wide-eyed at the sight of the towering bearskins. And you, part of this living wall of steel and flesh, feel both pride and distance. You are no longer merely a man. You are a guardsman, bound to Napoleon, bound to destiny. And yet, in quiet moments, humanity still slips through. You share bread with a comrade, laugh at a crude joke, help a wounded man shoulder his pack. You think of home, of streets where bells ring on Sundays, of vineyards basking in sunlight. These memories are fragile, fleeting, but they keep you tethered to something beyond war. Without them, you would become nothing more than steel. Spring turns the earth green again, but for you, every step is still heavy, every day still uncertain. For you are the Guard, and you march not for seasons, but for empire. The road stretches on, and though you cannot see its end, you march forward, always forward, because that is what it means to serve. Summer arrives, and with it comes both relief and torment. The snow and mud are gone, but in their place is the burning sun, beating down upon thousands of marching men. The bearskin hat that once shielded you from winter's bite now feels like a furnace on your head. Sweat runs down your back, soaking the blue wool of your coat. Your throat dries quickly, your lips crack, and every swallow feels like sand. The dust of the road rises in choking clouds, coating your tongue, your teeth, your lungs. Still, the march continues. From dawn until dusk, you place one boot before the other, the drums steady, the flags fluttering overhead. The fields shimmer in the heat, rivers sparkle in the distance, and villages appear only to vanish behind you. Horses collapse in the sun, drivers whip them back to their feet, and men stumble with exhaustion. Yet in the guard, there is no faltering. The line moves forward as if the sun itself could not break it. Camp in summer brings its own hardships. Flies swarm over everything, food, wounds, faces slick with sweat. The stench of unwashed bodies mixes with the reek of manure and the sharp bite of smoke. Water is precious, often drawn muddy from streams or shallow wells. Some men fall sick, their bellies racked by fever, their faces pale as ash. Surgeons do what they can, but disease spreads quickly in heat. Each cough, each groan, carries the threat of death as surely as a bullet. Yet there are moments of strange beauty. At night, when the fires burn low and the stars scatter across the sky, you lie on your back, staring upward. The Milky Way stretches like a river of light, endless and silent. For a brief moment, the war feels distant, your burdens lightened, your heart stilled. The laughter of comrades drifts across the camp, the smell of bread baking mingles with wood smoke, and you almost forget that tomorrow may demand your life. The guard's role in battle remains the same: to wait, to endure, and to strike only when Napoleon commands. Hours may pass as you stand in reserve, the sounds of musket fire and cannon rolling across the fields. You watch as lines of ordinary infantry clash, break, and reform. Smoke drifts over the battlefield, the sun dimmed behind the haze. Wounded men stagger back through your ranks, their faces ghostly, their uniforms torn and blood-soaked. You grip your musket tighter, knowing that when the order comes, it will be your turn. And when it comes, the guard moves like thunder. Drums roll, officers shout, and suddenly you are advancing, bayonet fixed, musket steady. The heat presses against you, sweat stings your eyes, but adrenaline drowns fatigue. Cannonballs plow through the earth, musket balls whistle past your ears. Comrades fall beside you, yet the line does not break. Each step forward feels like defiance against the chaos, each volley like a hammer striking destiny itself. Close combat in the summer sun is hell. Bayonets clash, muskets fire at point-blank range, men grapple hand-to-hand in clouds of dust. You feel the sting of powder in your throat, the heat of bodies pressing against you, the metallic tang of blood in the air. The roar of battle is deafening, yet through it all you hear the cry of officers, the thunder of drums, the shouts of "Vive l'Empereur" rising again and again. It is not just a fight for land, it is a fight for the very spirit of France. When the battle ends, victory or defeat, the sun is merciless. Wounded men lie sprawled across the field, their faces blistered from both fire and heat. The stench of death mingles with the smell of scorched powder and sweat. Burial details dig under the blazing sun, their hands blistered, their throats parched. You help lift comrades into shallow graves, your muscles trembling, your heart heavy. Each body lowered into the earth feels like a piece of yourself buried with it. That night, as the camp settles, you sit quietly by the fire, your musket resting against your shoulder. Comrades share stories in hushed voices. Some laugh to hide their pain. Others fall silent, staring into the flames. You chew on a crust of bread, sip from a tin cup, and feel the weight of the day pressing down. Yet when you close your eyes, you hear Napoleon's voice, steady and commanding, reminding you that the guard is unbreakable. Summer, with all its heat and hardship, teaches you another truth. Endurance is not only physical, it is of the spirit. To be in the guard is to march when your body fails, to fight when your lungs burn, to stand when the world around you collapses. And though the sun scorches, though the dust chokes, you march on. For as long as Napoleon leads, you know there will be no rest. Only the road, the drumbeat, and the endless call of duty. Autumn comes, and with it, a different kind of weight. The air cools, the leaves turn gold and red, and the roads grow slick with rain. Mud clings to your boots again, though not with winter's cruelty. It is softer, heavier, sucking at your steps with each mile. The air smells of damp earth, wet leather, and wood smoke. Villages huddle under gray skies, their chimneys trailing smoke that blends with the fog. This is the season of marching without end. Napoleon's campaigns rarely pause, and the guard moves wherever he points. You march through forests where the leaves fall in showers of color, through fields harvested bare, through towns where people peer from shuttered windows as the endless column passes. Some wave timidly, others spit curses, but none dare stand in the way. The guard is a symbol larger than life, and its presence is like a storm, overwhelming, unstoppable, indifferent. Yet beneath the grandeur lies fatigue. Each campaign has cost lives, each battle has thinned the ranks. You notice more new faces among the young guard, boys barely grown into men, eager but untested, their eyes shining with the hunger to prove themselves. They look at the old guard with awe, as if standing among them grants a kind of immortality. But you know the truth. You have seen immortality vanish in smoke and blood too many times to believe in it anymore. Camp in autumn carries its own rhythm. Fires crackle against the chill. Men sit wrapped in cloaks, steam rising from bowls of stew. The smell of onions and salted pork fills the air, mingling with damp wool and wet horses. Around the fire, voices grow softer in this season, more reflective. Men speak of home more often, of harvests missed, of children they imagine playing among vineyards or in city streets. There is laughter, yes, but it is quieter now, tinged with longing. Letters arrive, carried by couriers who ride tirelessly across war-torn lands. Men gather eagerly when names are called, clutching the folded pages as if they were treasures. You see comrades weep openly as they read words from wives, mothers, or children. Some letters bring joy, others sorrow. News of a father's death, of a child's birth missed, of farms lost to debt or ruin. You know too well the power of ink on paper, how it can cut deeper than steel or heal wounds no surgeon can. The guard drills even in autumn's rains. Muskets must be kept dry, bayonets sharp, movements flawless. You practice again and again, mud splashing up your legs, rain soaking through your hat. Discipline never weakens, because Napoleon demands it. He watches the guard with eyes that miss nothing, his presence pressing upon you like a weight. And when he speaks, promising victory, promising that France will remember your names, you feel pride kindle again, even as exhaustion gnaws at you. Battles in autumn are different from those in summer. The fields are slick, the air damp, the smoke from cannon and musket hanging low and heavy. You advance through mud that pulls at your boots, fire through rain that dampens your powder, fight in fog that swallows the enemy until they appear suddenly. Bayonets gleaming only feet away. Each step is harder, each shot more uncertain, but the guard still holds, the guard still moves. When others falter in the mire, you remain unshaken. The cost of such endurance weighs on you more heavily in this season. You see men fall not only from bullets, but from fevers, from the slow suffocation of damp and cold. Graves are dug in rain-soaked fields, the earth turning to sludge beneath shovels. You stand guard as comrades are buried, their names spoken quickly, before the storm erases the sound. And you wonder, as you watch the rain blur the world, how long your own name will live if the mud swallows you next. Yet autumn has its quiet gifts. You remember sitting by a fire one evening, the rain pattering softly on canvas above. A comrade drew a violin from his pack, its wood scarred but its strings still true. He played, softly at first, then with growing strength, the notes rising into the damp night. The music carried across the camp, silencing even the most hardened veterans. For a moment, the war faded, the mud vanished, and you were not a soldier, but simply a man listening to beauty. You closed your eyes, and it felt as if the world itself had paused. Autumn teaches you that service in the Guard is not only about fighting. It is about endurance of the spirit, the ability to find warmth in cold, music in silence, and brotherhood in despair. You march, you fight, you bury, you remember. And always, the road stretches ahead, as endless as the Emperor's ambition. Winter returns, harsher than the last. The cold strikes early, biting into flesh with a cruelty that no musket ball could match. Snow covers the roads, turning every march into torment. Boots split, toes blacken, and men stumble through drifts that rise above their knees. The wind howls endlessly, slicing through wool and fur as if you wore nothing at all. Breath crystallizes in the air, and even speech becomes painful, words breaking apart in frozen gasps. Food grows scarce. Bread is harder than stone, meat so tough with frost it must be hacked apart with bayonets before it can be cooked. Horses die in droves, their ribs jutting against skin, their bodies left as silent monuments on the roadside. Hunger gnaws at your belly until it feels as though your insides are devouring themselves. Men chew leather straps, gnaw bark from trees, anything to silence the emptiness for a moment. Some collapse mid-march and never rise again, their bodies buried hastily in the snow or left behind when the column cannot stop. Disease spreads as mercilessly as frost. Typhus, dysentery, fever. Each cuts through the ranks more ruthlessly than cannon fire. The surgeons are overwhelmed, their hands numb, their tools filthy, their faces hollow with exhaustion. You see men wrapped in blankets, shivering, whispering prayers, their breath weak until it vanishes altogether. The dead are lined in rows, cloaks pulled over their faces, before being covered with snow that serves as both shroud and grave. Through all of this, discipline holds the Guard together. The drums beat, though muffled by snow, guiding the march. Officers shout, their voices cracking, forcing men forward when bodies beg to fall. The old Guard remains unyielding, their silence a shield stronger than any musket. You watch them, their faces hard as granite, their eyes narrowed against the wind. If they can endure, then so can you. Or so you tell yourself, again and again, with each frozen step. Napoleon himself becomes both myth and anchor in this frozen world. He rides among the men, wrapped in a heavy cloak, his small horse laboring through the drifts. His presence is almost surreal, a flame amid the endless white. "Courage, soldiers," he says, his voice steady despite the cold. "France depends on you." His words are simple, but they burn within you, kindling pride even when your body trembles. You march, not because your strength remains, but because his will demands it. When battle comes in winter, it is like fighting inside a dream. The snow muffles sound, yet the roar of cannon still shakes the earth. Smoke clings low to the ground, mingling with fog, until the world becomes a blur of gray and white. Muskets misfire, powder damp with sleet. Men slip and fall in the ice, their bayonets clattering from numb hands. You fight with fingers stiff as wood, your musket heavy, your breath ragged. The enemy appears suddenly through the haze, faces pale, eyes wide, bayonets gleaming. The clash is brutal, close, and savage, Steel strikes steel, men grapple in the snow, and blood stains the white ground in scarlet streaks. Afterward, the field is silent, but for the moans of the dying. Snow drifts over the fallen, covering them in a pale shroud. You stand, chest heaving, musket still in hand, your legs trembling with exhaustion. Around you, comrades sink to their knees, some too weak to stand, others staring blankly at nothing. Victory feels hollow when bought at such a cost, yet you know the guard has once again endured where others would have shattered. At night, the camp is a scattering of fires barely clinging to life. You sit wrapped in your cloak, your hands trembling as you hold a tin cup of thin soup. Steam rises briefly before the cold steals it away. Comrades huddle together, their faces gaunt, their eyes sunken. Yet even here, in the heart of suffering, there is defiance. A man sings softly, his voice cracked but steady, and others join in. The song spreads across the camp, weaving through the smoke and frost. It is not cheerful, but it is strong. It says, "We are still here." Winter teaches you that to serve in the guard is not only to fight battles with musket and bayonet, it is to fight the cold, the hunger, the despair itself, and to endure. Each step you take, each night you survive, is a victory of its own. And though you wonder how long you can endure, you know you will not falter. Because to falter is to betray the guard, the emperor, and France itself. Spring returns, though this time it feels less like renewal and more like reprieve. The snow recedes, rivers swell with meltwater, and fields turn green again. Birds sing in the hedgerows, flowers bloom by the roadsides, and for a moment, you almost forget the endless gray of winter. Yet you carry its scars, frostbite that stiffens your fingers, memories of comrades left beneath the snow, nights when hunger hollowed your body until it felt hollow too. The guard marches once more, boots splashing through puddles, uniforms damp with spring rain. The air smells fresher now, of wet soil, of budding leaves, of grass newly awakened. Villagers emerge to watch the procession, some offering bread or wine, others staring silently, wary of the shadow that thousands of soldiers cast upon their homes. Children trail behind the column, laughing, their voices carrying like bells. Their joy cuts through the heaviness of your steps, reminding you of life beyond war. Camp in spring brings a rare sense of ease. Fires burn warmer, food is a little more plentiful, and the air itself seems gentler. Men sit outside their tents in the evenings, shirts undone, laughing more freely than they did in the frozen months. You hear songs, flutes, even a fiddle scraped by one man who carried it through all the campaigns. Music drifts across the camp, weaving with the crackle of fire and the scent of cooking stew. For a few hours, you feel human again, not just part of a machine. Letters from home reach you more often now, carried swiftly along drier roads. The sight of familiar handwriting is like a drink of water after thirst. You watch comrades clutch their letters, eyes shining, some laughing at a child's scribbled note, others blinking back tears at words from wives and mothers. You read your own by the fire, tracing every line, memorizing every word. They remind you why you endure, why you march, why you hold the musket even when your body aches. Napoleon himself seems rejuvenated by the season. He rides often among the troops, his horse's hooves splashing in the puddles, his gaze sharp and restless. He speaks less now, but his presence is enough. When he nods, men stand straighter. When he frowns, they adjust straps, polish buttons, tighten lines. His energy radiates, and though fatigue weighs on you, his nearness makes you feel like a cog in something eternal. But spring is also the prelude to fresh campaigns. Whispers drift through the ranks. The emperor plans new marches, new battles, new conquests. You see the maps spread across tables in the command tents, officers tracing routes with fingers stained with ink and wax. Riders thunder in and out, carrying orders that ripple through the camp. The guard knows what it means. Soon, you will march into fire again. The brief warmth of spring is not peace, only a pause before the storm. You spend these days in constant preparation. Muskets are cleaned, bayonets sharpened, uniforms patched. Drills resume with renewed ferocity, volleys fired again and again until the air is thick with smoke. Officers shout until their voices break, demanding precision, demanding speed, demanding perfection. And you respond because you must. The guard does not falter, not even in practice. When the moment comes, there can be no hesitation. Yet in quiet moments, you still find space for reflection. One evening, sitting by the fire, you share a loaf of bread with a comrade who has marched beside you since Italy. His face is thinner, his beard streaked with gray, but his laughter is the same. "Do you ever think about after?" he asks. The word hangs in the air. After. A world without marching, without muskets, without drums. A world where the guard is no longer needed. You do not answer because you cannot imagine it. The guard is not a chapter of your life. It is your life. Spring, with all its warmth and promise, feels fragile. Each dawn brings the sound of drums, each evening the knowledge that tomorrow may demand everything. Yet as you march through blossoming fields and green forests, you feel pride stir within you again. For though the road is endless, though the burden is heavy, you know that you are part of something greater than yourself. You are Napoleon's guard, his shield, his hammer, his immortality in flesh. Summer's heat presses down again, heavier this time, as if the sun itself has chosen sides in the endless war. The air shimmers above the fields, dust clouds rise from the road, and sweat pours beneath your coat until the wool clings to your skin. The bearskin hat, once a badge of pride, feels like a punishment. Your throat burns with thirst, your lips crack and bleed, and each gulp of tepid water tastes like salvation. The march is unrelenting. You pass through fields baked dry by the sun, villages where shutters are closed tight, towns where people gather in silence to watch the columns snake past. Children wave timidly, women stare, men turn away. The guard is both admired and feared, a storm that sweeps across Europe carrying glory and ruin in equal measure. You feel the weight of those eyes on you with every step. Drums thunder, banners ripple, and the guard holds its form even in suffocating heat. Discipline is the lifeblood that keeps the line unbroken. Officers ride up and down the ranks, barking orders, correcting posture, snapping at any hint of slackness. To falter is shame. To stumble is dishonor. And so you straighten your back, lift your chin, and keep marching even when your legs tremble and your vision blurs. When battle comes under the summer sun, it is like fighting inside a furnace. Smoke hangs thick in the air, muskets blaze, and cannon fire tears the earth apart. Sweat blinds you, powder stings your throat, and blood soaks into the dust until the ground itself seems alive. You fight shoulder to shoulder, bayonet flashing, musket firing, every motion drilled into you until instinct takes over. There is no time to think, only to strike, reload, and strike again. The enemy pushes, but the guard holds. Always the guard holds. You advance when ordered, your steps steady, your formation unbroken. Cannonballs crash into the line, muskets tear holes through the ranks, yet you close the gaps without hesitation. Comrades fall beside you, their bodies collapsing into the dust, but the wall of steel remains. The enemy falters, and then retreats, and still you stand, chest heaving, musket smoking, eyes fixed on the horizon. Afterward, The battlefield is a graveyard of heat and silence. The sun sets red, casting its glow over fields littered with bodies. Horses lie twisted, guns splintered, banners torn. The air reeks of powder, sweat, and death. You stagger back to camp, your body drained, your ears ringing, your mind numb. Around you, men collapse onto the ground, too exhausted even to speak. Surgeons move quickly, their knives flashing in the fading light, the cries of the wounded rising into the dusk. That night, you sit by a small fire, your cloak wrapped around your shoulders, your musket leaning against your knee. You chew slowly on a crust of bread, every bite dry and tasteless. A comrade hums softly, his voice cracked, and another joins in. Soon, the song spreads, a thread of sound weaving through the camp, carrying sorrow and defiance in equal measure. The flames flicker, the stars burn faintly overhead, and for a moment, you feel the strength of something greater than yourself. Napoleon passes through the camp. His face is drawn, his eyes sharp, his movements restless. He stops often, speaking to the men, his voice low but commanding. "You have done well," he says. "France will remember." His words sink deep, even when your body is too weary to care. To be acknowledged by him is to be lifted above fatigue, above despair, if only for a heartbeat. Summer teaches you that victory is never clean. It is paid for with sweat, blood, and exhaustion beyond words. Yet still, you endure. You rise each morning to the drumbeat. You march through heat and dust. You fight when ordered, and you never break. That is the Guard's duty, and it is yours. And as the summer nights grow shorter, you feel the shadow of autumn approaching. The road stretches on, battles yet to be fought, victories yet to be claimed. And you know that as long as Napoleon leads, you will march, through dust, through fire, through eternity itself. Autumn arrives once more, but this time the air feels different, heavy, uncertain, as though the empire itself trembles. The leaves turn gold and crimson, swirling down onto roads beaten flat by countless boots. Rain falls often, soaking cloaks and hats, dripping into collars until your very bones feel damp. Mud clings thick to your boots again, each step heavier than the last. Yet still, the Guard marches. Always forward, always steady. The faces around you have changed. Many of the comrades who once laughed with you around campfires are gone, their places filled by new recruits, younger and less seasoned. They look to the veterans with wide eyes, searching for courage, for assurance that the Guard is unbreakable. And the veterans, though scarred and weary, stand tall. They know the truth. Endurance is as much appearance as it is strength. If the old Guard stands unflinching, then so will the rest. Whispers drift through the ranks. The empire is stretched thin. Enemies gather on all sides, and even Napoleon's invincible aura seems shadowed. Yet when he rides among the men, the fire still ignites. His voice, calm but commanding, steadies hearts. "Soldiers," he says, "France trusts you. Stand with me, and we cannot fall." And though doubts linger, his words burn away fear, if only for a moment. Battle in autumn is a brutal, sodden affair. Rain turns fields into swamps. Muskets misfire as powder dampens. Bayonets clash in the mud. Smoke hangs low, mingling with mist, blinding friend and foe alike. You fight with boots slipping, your musket heavy with water, your body soaked to the skin. Around you, men shout, slip, fall, rise again, striking with desperate fury. The ground drinks deeply, red mixing with brown, until it is impossible to tell mud from blood. When the fighting ends, victory feels hollow. The field is a mire of bodies, faces pressed into the muck, hands frozen in their final gestures. The cries of the wounded rise into the damp air, mingling with the steady patter of rain. You help carry comrades to the surgeon's tents, your shoulders aching, your heart heavier still. Their eyes meet yours, some pleading, some resigned, some already far away. You grip their hands, whispering words you do not believe. You will be fine. Hold on. The guard never abandons its own. Camp. After such a battle is quieter than before. Fires sputter in the rain, their smoke drifting lazily into the night. Men sit in silence, staring into the flames, polishing muskets that will fire again tomorrow. Songs are softer now, voices low, the notes trembling like the embers that fade into the dark. And yet, even in sorrow, there is pride. The guard still stands. France still stands. And so long as Napoleon lives, the men believe there is still hope. You lie awake, listening to the rain drum on canvas, the soft murmur of voices, the coughs of the sick. Your body aches with exhaustion, but your mind will not rest. You think of the years marched away, of the faces left behind, of the comrades buried in snow, in dust, in mud. You wonder what history will remember, the glory, the victories, the endless marches, or the silence of the dead. And then you realize, the guard itself is the memory. To have served is to have lived at the heart of empire, closer to the fire of history than any other. The suffering, the pride, the loyalty, the fear, it is all bound together in one unbreakable chain. To the world, you are Napoleon's chosen. To yourself, you are simply a man who endured. Autumn deepens, the days grow shorter, and the future is uncertain. Yet as long as the drum beats, as long as the flag flies, you will march. For to serve in the Imperial Guard is to surrender not just your strength, but your very self. To be part of something larger, harsher, and more enduring than any single life. And though you do not know what tomorrow will bring, you know this: history will remember the Guard, and through it, it will remember you.